want to welcome you to the show today.
Great. Thanks, Bill. Pleasure to be here.
So tell my audience who you are and who you work, which company you work with, and just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get right into it. I know we just finished riffing about Mike Tyson and his comeback, but we'll try to make it just a little bit businessy, although it's kind of fun to talk about Mike Tyson's comeback too.
It certainly is, Bill. Good afternoon, and thanks for inviting me on your program. My name is George Pryor. I'm the Vice President of IT, Head of IT for Whitney, Bradley, and Brown. We are a 30-plus-year-old company that is a government contractor that services the Department of Defense, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and various other new branches, including the Space Force, and also some federal and civilian and health markets. Whitney, Bradley, and Brown has recently completed the acquisition of BRTRC Federal Systems and Decisive Analytics in Crystal City, and our company grew by 500 employees in the last 9 months. So a lot of change has occurred, which has been a lot of fun, and I hope we get to talk a little bit about that during a very interesting time. About myself, I've been in information technology for more than 30 years, have seen the evolution of token ring to local area networks to plain paper faxes to not using faxes and a whole bunch of different things as well. So it's been an exciting journey, and I look forward to AI and machine learning and all kinds of other fun things.
Well, maybe that's why we haven't talked as much over the past couple of months, because of this acquisition. And that's a significant acquisition, 500 employees, because you already had close to 500, right?
That's correct, yes. So it was 250 plus 250. So two separate companies, mostly not in the cloud, different systems. I was never so happy as to shut down an Exchange server ×2 as my new staff were. But yes, a lot of work got done. My staff have done an absolutely fantastic job.
Did a cloud approach help with this new acquisition? Did you just move all systems into the cloud, or did you figure out another way to do it?
So we were very fortunate in that Whitney, Bradley, Brown, WBB's senior management was very enthusiastic 2 years ago about our cloud-based approach. Because we support the DoD, we have to comply with NIST 800-171. So at that particular time, we were looking at the various business drivers, if you will, and it was really clear that for our company, the scale to continue doing things on premises with limited staff and resources, it just didn't make cost sense. So for WBB, we had a 2 years head start, if you will, and had gotten most of all of our systems into the cloud. When we purchased BRTRC and DAC, we had to quickly integrate those companies because we wanted to create that one WBB, if you will, without losing the culture, because both companies brought a unique culture, and obviously the sum of the parts, as you know, are obviously the synergies in. But we wanted to have integrated back office, integrated email system. Being that we were already in the cloud for WBB, it was a lot easier, but still a lot of challenges because you've got to integrate networks, you've got to bring people up to speed. But I think, a testament to the staff of those companies was they were excited, they were eager, they wanted to do this, and we got it done.
Yeah, and that's non-trivial. It's non-trivial to be able to integrate domains across companies, and especially with email. And I've had to do that many times through Red Zone's tenure, but that is a big task. So congratulations on doing that. And culture is a big deal with acquisitions. I mean, that's literally the one major variable that can sink or can break or make it a huge win from an acquisition.
Absolutely. And I think I can speak on behalf of the staff. They all view this as an opportunity to learn and continue to build as innovators within the organization. Being part of a smaller company and then being part of a larger company for a seasoned veteran really does help broaden that thinking. So I had a lot of hunger, if you will, from the staff that joined WBB around learning new things, and they've done a fantastic job.
What does innovation mean to you that word in the context of the position, in the context of the team, and how do you look at it when you're in a senior team meeting and they'll say, are we being innovative? Now it's a catch-all. It's like telling someone, yeah, that person's nice. It technically means nothing. It just means, nice doesn't really have much of a meaning to it. There's much deeper angles to that adjective. So what does innovation mean to you?
To me, innovation is adding enterprise value to the organization. Okay. That is a key, if you will. Information technology, and I love to use your offense and defense, if you will, because in the past, IT was viewed as a service provider and a cost center to provide support for critical systems. I think successful IT still needs to do that very much because those are core to keeping all of the various aspects of the organization going. But IT has to be innovative in helping the business think through problems and add value.
Okay.
And to me, as an organization, WBB it's a knowledge worker organization. Our staff are hired by the Department of Defense to provide critical thinking on projects, on various activities, and we produce an awful lot of intellectual property. And our ability to be successful as a company is the ability to be efficient and effective and support our customer. And of course, we have to keep the lights on, right? We have to grow the company. We have to replace the business. And so where IT can add enterprise value by adding efficiencies, by bringing systems into place that help, for example, the proposals team, that help business development, that help HR, and help the staff, that's being innovative.
Do you, it's interesting, you've got proposals in biz dev, and what is your process? So we went into the plague, the pandemic here, and typically there's a retraction in that type of endeavor, and there's a fear that hits, and it hits a lot of businesses, and they pull back. And so biz dev and marketing and proposal development and stuff, all of a sudden, when times are good, you're not worried about biz dev and proposals. But now I'm curious how you look at things from your point of view and how you sit down. What does your process look like when you sit down with a business leader in one of those areas of how IT can help support them?
That's a great question. So we were fortunate that a lot of the ConOps for our biz dev and our proposal and opportunity management had already been migrated to the cloud. Okay. We had gone through the very sort of heavy lifting, and it was painful. And I commend the leaders of those groups for being so supportive. So once we closed our offices down that previous Friday, I remember coming back from a trip, and I came back and I started working from home. We had closed our offices, and everyone was working remotely. And guess what? They were doing it securely, which is really important, is to maintain that security. And we never missed a beat. Our proposals team and our capture team have never been busier, but they've been working very efficiently. And that is a testament to the fact that we were innovative in our thinking around the technology. We chose to use the technology, and we focused on collaboration. And we realized very quickly that the glue, if you will, in those areas that works is that people can go down to someone's office and say, what do you mean about this? Or what does this actually require us to do? Now they have to do that all virtually. So the fact that we had the infrastructure that was in place to do that, they pivoted, and it took them a couple of weeks, but I am so proud and so impressed of everyone, how they adopted and how they've gone in there. So that is, for us, we're busier than ever.
So I have a question, and I'll lead into it with a statement. It's not a politically correct statement, but I think people right now are leaning into the politically correct response that, we have such a great team company that we can all work from home. And I just think that's a politically correct statement to make everybody happy. And I do believe that the large chunk of people have to be in a collaborative environment where human beings are interacting with human beings for the for work, and that we were in a situation like war that we're in right now. that anybody can get things done in 2 months time frame. But I'm curious to you, from your perspective, how will it look like moving forward as you start to go? Are you seeing that you're going to have to create those collaborations again when people go back to work, or are you seeing people being completely able to be effective from all different angles from their home environment?
So I am always impressed by the ingenuity and the adaptability of us as a species, including myself. I will say I'm an in the office kind of person. I really am. I enjoy going into the office. I enjoy walking into the hallways to get a pulse of the people that we provide services for. There's no better way to know if things are going well or not by going to another vice president and say, how is this system working? And he or she will say, oh, this is terrible, George. We shouldn't have done this, or we made a miscue. So, for me, I've worked remotely before. I've had various jobs where I did work remotely. This was definitely a challenge. I would say the staff took about 1 to 2 weeks before they adapted. It takes time to set up your home office. It takes time to find out how to use some of the tools. But I would say from a collaboration perspective and from an overall productivity perspective and continuing to innovate around the company, we've done exceptionally well. I do believe that balance is everything. And we are now in a situation where everyone is working remotely. And there are people like myself that want to go back into the office, but I will be very frank and tell you, I have found that I'm more productive because I have the ability to tune things out that perhaps in the past I wouldn't have. So I think as we consider the safety of our staff and our customers and adjusting to this particular situation, it's taught us that we are self-sufficient and we can work, and we should capitalize on that. But as you point out, I enjoy the human interaction. It's great seeing you here and having that hat on, and wearing a suit and tie. It's the Bill that I know, and I'm sitting here wearing a polo shirt. But it would be great to sit and have a cup of coffee with you and sort of break bread over real conversation. But again, I know it's a long answer. I think we'll adjust, and I think we'll learn from this and come out stronger.
Yeah, and I talked about that a lot. Is that people say, well, do you like to make your own food, eat in a restaurant, or order from Uber Eats, or what's the other service? I forget, but
Grubhub, I think.
What's it?
Or DoorDash or Grubhub.
Yeah, DoorDash. I'm like, who's this guy that just came to the house? I yelled over to my son. He's like, DoorDash. And I'm like, what? But anyway, my answer is all of it. Like, I want all ways of getting my food. I want to be able to make it in my house. I want to be able to eat in the restaurant, and I want to get DoorDash. I actually don't get DoorDash, but I know I want the capability that if I needed to get DoorDash, I could get it. And I think that if you're super inclined to make your own food because you're good at it, then you're going to be kind of lean in that camp. And I think from a business environment, we as business leaders need to be able to offer, the business needs to be fully redundant, capable. And it's funny because for years we've had to build systems that are fully capable. It used to be hot, cold with a cold day recovery site, and then it was hot, warm, and now it's hot, hot. Yep. And because we never know if a system's going to come down, we need the business to come back up again from a digital virus of some sort, or a malware or takedown. But I think we need the same thing biologically from the biological takedown. We need to have that full capability. But you brought something up really interesting when we were talking about this before. Keeping the momentum going, I think, is a big one. In fact, the next mastermind I want to do is on that topic, ironically, because I think people are very resilient and can work remotely when needed to. And if you're a book writer, you sort of need your cave time. And if you're super creative, there's a different disparity between super creative people and people that want to drive by the office and talk to someone. So I'm curious, how do you look at momentum moving forward within your organization, and how can you facilitate that as a leader?
So I started at the beginning of the year with a very ambitious work program. We were tasked with integrating two other organizations into one company, melding staff and creating a number of different process and procedures, as well as some other initiatives that had already been on the board as well. So we had a very ambitious work program for calendar year 2020. Fast forward about 2.5 months in, and we're all told that we have to stay home. Fortunately, our infrastructure was such that even the disparate parts could be managed remotely, but we also had the projects that we had to complete. So we shifted into what I would say is a almost hyper mode towards getting as much done as we could around completing those tasks, because we knew when we came back, we'd probably have a backlog of a whole bunch of other things that we had to do. And as a result, it was a trial by fire for a discrete group of very talented professionals that learned how to understand how another person clicked, and they just did it organically. And that's, to me, such a testament to the resiliency of us as people and a desire to work on a common goal. We knew that we had to do this, and people stepped up, and people rose to their sort of defined area of expertise, and we have just executed. I think if I were to look through our work program, we're ahead of schedule on our work program. I don't want to jinx it here for the rest of our team, and we've added some other items in there. And the other thing that was for us a huge challenge is, as you know, the government is a very closed ecosystem for very valid reasons, but they had to work with their suppliers and their consultants. Yeah. And all of our embedded folks did not have an easy way of working with a customer. And so I'm very, very impressed with how quickly, if you followed CVR, they've deployed that for the government, and we're now supporting our people using that. So I think, again, the momentum fed upon itself. It became self-sustaining. And most importantly, the people that said it couldn't be done have now become the enablers by saying, I said it couldn't be done, and now I'm seeing the value. So the key for us is to capitalize on that. For example, I'll give you an example. Our delivery sites are online, and it quickly became clear that they were not as collaborative as they could be. And where in the past we might have waited 6 to 12 months to make a change, we're going to flip the switch on our delivery sites at the end of this month. We're socializing the change, we're letting people know, and we're going to get the train, and people are going to get on the train, and they're going to go forward, and we're going to pull the rest of the staff in. So that is really gratifying to do.
Is there, when you, now, is that just being done because people are just more effective and more efficient, you think? And just you're able to close the gaps because there's not distraction?
I think what has come to the realization of a lot of people is that these tools, if used, are effective. And if there is a cohesive corporate roadmap around how they can be used, they buy into them a lot more, because they are no longer in a situation, as I said, you can't walk down to the proposal writer's office and say, I want, give you a piece of paper and mark this up. You now have to collaborate digitally. You're sitting in your office in Aldi, and your proposal writer is in Olney, right? They're not going to drive to Olney, and you have to be able to work digitally. So people see that if you do that well, it does work.
I think part of this is people are being forced to be clear. They're forced to have clarity, because you can't actually convey with body language, and can't convey with someone's butt is in the seat, so it must be getting done. And all of a sudden their butt's not in the seat, and because there's no seat anymore, and right. And now you got to check in and like, did you actually do? No, I never really did it, because I never even knew what I was being asked for. And now you have to be really. I don't know if I just have a sneaky suspicion that clarity is going to be one of the big takeaways from remote communication in general, but definitely with remote workers.
I would agree, because you don't have that support system, which you had in the past. So it does force you to be very clear around expectations. And I also believe that people that task need to be clear, and people that get tasked need to respond with a affirmation that they understand. And if they don't understand, they raise their hand. And, this is where I get to impart some wisdom from my dad, who left us some time ago, but he did impart some really good wisdom because he was a really good teacher. And he always said to me, if the student hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught. And I've taken that to heart in that when I provide guidance, I always make sure that the person to whom I'm engaging and asking for a deliverable affirms back to me that the requirements are clear and the expected outcome is clear in an affirming manner. Otherwise, there's ambiguity. And ambiguity is almost it's the antithesis of a successful outcome. A successful outcome should be clear, it should be defined, it should be measurable. If it's ambiguous, then we as leaders have not done a good job of providing clear guidance around our expectations. But also, I'm a little on my soapbox here, also, I think you have to be very clear that you can't just task people as an automaton or a robot. Our people are very smart. And sometimes they're going to say, Bill, George, what do you mean? This doesn't make sense. And
right.
Not every idea I have is good, right? It may be something that wants to be done, but I love the fact that my staff comes up with better ways to get things done. The outcome is the most important.
Yeah, the outcome, and what I found what's interesting with we talked about was with innovation. You mentioned in adding enterprise value is that you help people think through problems, and I haven't really thought about it from that angle. But in a thinking organization, which many of our organizations are, thinking through and helping thinking through the problem set, and then the CIO can straddle all business departments, all knowledge, and all data. Essentially puts the CIO right in the middle of that, as long as the thinking tools and the word and the exercises can extract from the business what they were looking for. And are you the one that primarily plays that role of helping business leaders think through their problems, or does your team also participate in that as well?
So my team is very, very good at socializing ideas and coming up with things that we should do. Okay. They're incredibly good at saying we need to do this. They're very empowered, and there is no bad idea. That is a principle that I always live by. We might not be able to execute on an idea, but I encourage people to come up with ideas. As it pertains to the business, here's a perfect example of where IT can add enterprise value, but also needs to caution the business. As a knowledge management organization, we produce a lot of IP. And the age-old comment I get is, George, I can't find it. You've heard this before. I'm sure you even have this within Red Zone, right?
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, you're looking for a proposal that you want to reuse for a different customer, and you can't find it. And you grumble and you say, why can't I find this proposal? And then you probably spend 20 hours redoing it. And then after you submit it, you find the old proposal and you're like, I wish I would have had that. So I've had a number of people say, George, what are we going to do to fix this findability or this search problem? I said, well, you are going to not like what I have to say, but this is not an IT-led initiative. This is a business-led initiative. I will help you, the business, come up with ideas and curate a discussion. But ultimately, if I'm the one that organizes your IP, you will hate it. Because the way I organize things is not good for the business. So I've been part of enough information management taxonomy projects that have gone down in flames because IT has been asked to do something that they're fundamentally not good at.
Yeah.
The business knows, the proposals department, the BD department, the project operations department, they know how they want to organize things. They do that for a living. So what IT's role is to help facilitate that discussion and come up with technology and help guide the business. That to me is the partnership between information technology and the business. There is, and I've seen this before, there is a desire by us as technical leaders to implement tools. If I just implement this tool, I'm going to solve that problem. Well, if you don't understand what you're trying to solve and you don't have good outcomes, then you're just implementing technology that no one will use.
And so that leads so that thinking process is what you've been using at WBB successfully.
Yes, I mean, essentially, there are things that we have to do, right? We need to provide email services to, we need to do this and this, and there's a good trust around we do the right thing for the business. But when it comes to adding that enterprise value, the partnership is, what problem are you trying to solve, and how can automation, how can different tools work, with the understanding that we need to be secure, we need to maintain availability, and all these different things. So there's a tremendous camaraderie amongst our leadership around that approach because it's collaborative.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what did I forget to ask you that you wanted to make sure that you conveyed in this time? Is there anything in particular? God, I wish Bill would ask that question.
Well, I'm happy to tell you that on the defense side of the house, we have absolutely launched full steam ahead with our CMMC initiative, which is great. So from a defense perspective, we're taking this opportunity to be very critical about how we secure the enterprise and the environment. It's interesting. Yesterday, I had the first.
For people listening to this, what does that mean?
It is the follow-on to the DFARS regulation as stipulated by NIST 800-171 for controlled unclassified information. So the government has come up with now a framework. It's almost complete, much like PCI, much like High Trust or SOC, whereby you can no longer be self-audited. You actually need to follow the framework and have an independent party audit you. So it's a good way of taking all of that work that you've done and reviewing it and making sure that you can pass that audit, so that for us as a government contractor, our strong expectation is that at some point in the proposals, you'll be required to provide your certificate of attestation that you've been audited. And if you don't have at least a certain level, you might not be able to bid.
Okay.
So it's we view it as a business driver and a business enabler.
Defense becomes offense.
It has to be. It absolutely. It's something that you can, it's part of your past performance, if you will, and it's part of your corporate enterprise value to the government. So the good news is for us is we've always been very focused on making sure that we're secure, but you should never rest on your laurels, as you all know. For those of us that have had those situations happen, it's life-changing. And so therefore, I never take a threat without being very serious about it, because the moment you do, someone's going to get you. So you don't want to be that quarterback where the guy comes from behind you and sacks you and you're like, what happened? I didn't have that coverage. So again, for us, that's been a huge area that we're putting a lot of effort in, and we're also using it as an opportunity to do cleanup, which is a good thing, because IT is really good at building things, but sometimes you got to take things down too.
Yep. Well, that's through the years, we've had a huge part of our practices when CIOs move to different businesses, finding all the dead bodies on the existing network.
Yes.
No matter how much you ask the existing staff, there's a difference between getting a third-party lens of it versus just getting it from the internal teams. And so that's been a huge, huge thing. So yeah, cleanup is important because you're inheriting networks that can be decades old.
Yep.
There's a lot of hands in the pot over the years.
Absolutely. And really smart hands. But that's one area that, including myself, we need to do better in documenting the things that we've built. There is no such thing as a self-documenting network. None that I've seen yet.
Well, George, I really appreciated our time. I know you were very generous with giving some time to share about your expertise and wisdom from your past and what you're bringing forward. And this can be great for other IT leaders to look at this and see what someone's doing with acquisitions and with thematics like offense and defense and building highly capable teams and some of the advanced security things you're doing as well. So I appreciate you for your time.
Well, Bill, thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you, even if it's virtual, and I look forward to the next time we can be in person. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you soon, George.
All right, take care.